Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. To have a really cool production follow-up. So originally I did check out the prototype preview for this new model from new brand Ubiq, and they were kind enough to follow up and actually send me a production unit so that I could share the updates with you all. A little about the brand. They're a new up-and-coming micro brand headquartered out of Singapore, launched to Kickstarter in February of 2024. Now, in terms of type of watch, this is a dive watch. Some key characteristics and design. When you're looking for a diver, of course, you want something that's tough, legible, with a dive time bezel and a diver's extension is always nice if on bracelet. This also crosses over into the very useful traveler's watch space, where you're typically going to want to find GMT, world timer functionality, so you're able to track multiple time zones with relative ease. Here's where they got really smart. They didn't have to change around anything with the movement. They just added the very, very useful, and I think personally very underrated 12-hour timing bezel, so that you can actually just scooch over your bezel to offset your 12-hour time instead of tracking a 24-hour hand. Now, this is their dual series number one, and in the colorway of C-Set, and it is Ubiq's first watch launch. It's also a dual use diver traveler with a vibrant and dynamic aesthetic full of fine details to enjoy. Now, in terms of production improvements, they include quite a few different ones besides overall refinement. They have improved QC, of course, versus those prototypes from before. That's definitely, you can really see it on the bezel printing. There's going to be smoother case finishes, which I really appreciate. Improved grade A lume, increased thinness, so it's been quite a bit refined as well, tightening things up for a more cohesive fit and feel. And then they definitely refined as well the end-link to bracelet transition, and they also even added a toolless micro adjust clasp. All of that for $649 direct. So a really nice deal there, just kind of in that sweet spot, under 1,000, a little over 500, and it's a 39 millimeter diameter. So this is a cool one. Let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys, now before we dive in, quickly, I did want to touch on the actual packaging, because that was one of the, interesting enough, as cool as this and dynamic as the watches itself, one of the highlights was how cool the packaging was. So I really want to follow up with that, and I have to say, as fun as that initial packaging was, this definitely carries the torch. Check this out. I love that. There's something about that. I think packaging can be very underrated. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be, made out of mahogany or anything like that. But just this little thing in terms of having an experience when you open everything up and you get to it. Here you have something that's useful, right? Of course, you do also get that bonus rubber strap. And this is cool, guys. I definitely really like that. You get this piece here, of course, so that when you do put it in there, it'll protect the backing, so that the clasp and everything doesn't wear against the back of the case. So I did want to point that out. Really nicely finished, guys. So this felt a lot better than you would expect, for a brand new brand. And I'd like that. I like that they focused on the customer experience, because it's not all just in the wear. It's also in, the experience of opening it up and, seeing something color matched and interesting and vibrant. So big shout out from that perspective, because I feel like they did something a little different, and it worked. It paid off. It impressed me. Now, let's get into this piece. Definitely looks a lot like the prototype aesthetically, so they didn't make any big changes to the visuals or the design. It's really more so the execution here has all been refined, and I gotta say, guys, I'm really, really happy with what I found. Now, in terms of the ultimate dimensions, 39 millimeters in diameter, 11.5 millimeters thick, 47 millimeters lug to lug, stainless steel, brushed and polished, and you even do have a matte blasted portion inset there. And now these are actually rounded finishes, so like if you touch the transition, it's not sharp to the touch, still sharp to the eye, in terms of the execution. Let me give it a quick little wipe here, and equally handsome on the non-crown side as well. So this is a really different touch, and I like that visually it does make your eye only see that blasted portion, and it's a nice bright blast. It's not dark, so it is going to help visually thin down the mid case. And then you can also see the grips here have a bit of a directional pattern to them, which is also nice and followed through on the crown. So just little details like that. I mean, I think it's pretty easy at this point with how great brands and micro brands and factory brands have gotten to where you could really just choose stuff out of a catalog and have a pretty solid watch. So the fact that they still went and made this quite unique and quite signature to their own design. I mean, look at this little fold here and this line on the case. Now that, you know, it's not just done to be done. Like, there was a clear vision that they had in mind and what they wanted to execute. And I love that you can just find these little details. And again, they're not weird details. I mean, the biggest thing that's, if you want to call it weird, is going to be the colorways, right? They're going to be very vibrant, very loud. But the design itself on this case, I think, definitely crossed more over into the very interesting. So you're getting a lot of visual interest, and it's all finished to a very high level. So getting into some more details here, sapphire, it's flat with an inner AR coating. And you see it is slightly raised. It almost has like a boxed little edge there. So you have that curved edge, which is very nice. Still very legible in terms of that crystal because of the way that it's cut. It does actually have a really nice bezel action, 60 click, bi-directional. It's perfect, right? So if I'm traveling and I know that I'm gonna be going ahead in time, then I just go ahead in time. Bam. This is great. So, and then when I get back, there I go. So very, very useful. And the nice thing is you still have the 60-minute scale there so that you can still use this as a dive timer, right? You can just set that there. And then now you have, of course, the minute scale as well. So very nice dual use, right? And again, not boring. Of course, if you're a big, Miami Dolphins fan, this color is definitely going to really stand out for you. I am not. I'm a 49er fan, originally from the Bay Area, but I do like these vibrant colors, and I feel like they're great for the summer, and they're going to go well with that. And even if you aren't dressed pretty loud and vibrant with like a floral shirt or anything like that, the nice thing is this does make a nice little pop of color, so you don't necessarily have to overdo it with trying to match these colors. I think they kind of stand well on their own because they do play really well off of each other, and that's typically something that becomes more versatile when you do have a piece that does have accent colors, but they play well off of each other, so you don't necessarily need to follow those themes throughout. It's not like you have to find matching shoes, socks, belts, whatever, right? So getting into some more of these details, crown is actually screw down and nicely signed. Oh, also, this is a loomed bezel, which is really cool. So we'll get to that when we get to the low light transition and loom shots, but I did want to point that out. Behind this solid etched case back, let's see if we can move this enough and then just focus in on that. There you go. So behind that case back, you're going to find an automatic Miyota 9015, so 42-hour power reserve, 4 hertz sweep, so that's a 28,800 vibration per hour beat rate, and yeah, it's behind a nice solid edged case back. Now, in terms of the rest of the watch here, guys, ooh, it is a handsome one. Let's just let's get that out of the way. I like the way this watch looks, and I like that it doesn't necessarily look like everything else that's out on the market. Yeah, you have a matte dial, very simple. You're getting the date at 6 o'clock, and it does have a frame in a way that it parallels with the indices, so it fits in. It's kind of an integrated look, which I like. I think it's very thoughtful. You're getting, of course, polished hands with a few painted accents as well, just for maximum contrast. You're getting C1 and BGW9 Superluminova, and these are grade A versions of them, so they're going to be very bright, which we'll see here in a second. You're getting 200 meters of water resistance, or 660 feet, which is fantastic. And yeah, 20 millimeter lugs, which are great. You know, that means this is going to be really easy to swap out. Not only is it going to be easy, it's going to be even tempting to swap out because you also do get that really nice rubber strap. But I'm more of a bracelet guy, so let's get into this brushed flat link bracelet. It does have screw pin construction, so that's very, very nice. And it does taper down to about 15.9 millimeters right before this very cool clasp. 18 millimeter clasp. I did want to mention the FKM rubber strap that comes also has quick release spring bars, and it is 20 millimeters as well. But the clasp itself is 18 millimeters, nicely finished. It does have, let me give it a quick little wipe here. Check that out. Nice little, ooh, if I can, there we go. So very clean, nicely brushed, nicely polished, great separation, great contouring there. Push button, and the buttons themselves even have nice contours. Oh, let me give it another quick wipe just because it's a warm day here in Oceanside, so there's going to be some sweat and some finger grease there. But look at that. Look at how well executed that is. Nicely contoured here on the folding section, so up against your wrist it's going to be very nice. Even signed, hashtag ready for life. Very cool. And of course you're going to be getting, yes, a toolless micro adjust clasp, so very, very nice. So you can go ahead and see that, check it out. 5 positions. It ratchets in, it doesn't pull out. You have to release the trigger if you want it to come out. Of course, I always like to size everything so I can get it as small as I can, and then as as my wrist swells throughout the day, then I can relieve some of the pressure by expanding it. But with that said, let's actually get this off the wrist, set up for, actually, I should say on the wrist, and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7.5 inch wrist, this wears really fantastically. Look at the light play on the flat links there on the bracelet. Very cool. Great profile. Check that out. Look at the way that it lays, the way that it wraps. Nice organic curves, but also some nice flat accents to make it feel just a little bit more modern and contemporary. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the lens here, you're going to get some perspective distortion. It's going to make the watch seem a lot larger than it actually is. But what I like to do here is just tighten up the frame so that you guys can get, still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist. And as you guys can see now, all of a sudden visually, you're seeing the watch, it appears more centered. You're also noticing more of that bracelet as you look down at it. So yeah, again, there's a lot of things that can just be kind of camera tricks when you're scrolling through Instagram. So this looks absolutely fantastic, guys. Look at that. I love the way everything flows together. I mean, yeah, the colors, they're pretty bright, but you know what? At this point in my collecting, I do enjoy, when things are going to be just a bit different. So I got to be able to appreciate that, and I definitely do here. So really, really cool, guys. So with that said, let's actually get it off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots. Low light transition and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Hey, check that out. I love the dual lume in terms of the green and the blue, BGW9 and C1 working together. And the nice thing is, of course, in the daylight, since this is C1 versus C3, you're going to have it be all very white during the day lume, and then you really only get the contrast in the darkness. Another cool thing is, since this is grade A lume, even though it's C1, it burns pretty bright, as you guys can see. But one thing I always like to work in is going to be a bit of a low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. So it is nice to see what these colors textures and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. And I have to say, guys, I'm digging it. I mean, I almost like it better in the dark, so it makes me think that if they would have done maybe something in terms of their colorways, they're going to be a little bit more tame, less vibrant, which, I mean, it's tough to say because a lot of times that's really part of a brand's identity is going to be their color palettes, the one that they choose to associate themselves with. But there's a part of me that does wish there was a kind of more monochromatic variation, maybe just some simple, less, I guess, in your face colorways, your basic kind of navy blues and grays, black, of course. I think black and gray, maybe with a red, would have been a nice kind of still signature, but definitely would have been, I think, a little bit more versatile and more kind of appealing to a broader group of folks. Like, imagine this, but the dial is kind of a cool anthracite gray, and you have black on the 12-hour scale, and then the 60-minute scale you do red. Maybe you do a red hand in terms of the accents there on the seconds lollipop, as well as the hour hand. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some different options they could do, and that's the cool thing is, hey, they're official now. They launched from Kickstarter and they produced a really cool looking watch. So I'm digging this one. I like how legible it is, and then even from a traveling perspective, it's quite legible. Like, check that out. Why don't we just supercharge that a little bit? Let's roast your eyes. And I think this looks really, really good. So we'll go ahead and get the lights back on here, guys, and let's do it. All right, closing thoughts on the wrist. Wears really nice and still compact, even at the 40 millimeter size. Actually, it's 39 millimeters technically. But I would say if 40 millimeters is your sweet spot, you're going to enjoy this one as well. Nice and compact, nicely refined over the pre-production prototype. Not that that was a bad watch, but this one definitely has some of those nicer little things that I think that, green flags, if you will, when it comes to attention to detail and the execution here. In terms of model variants, it's actually available in 5 signature colorways. Check the site links that are down in the description for current options and availability. Then in terms of comparable models, guys, in a sea of full of vintage inspired divers, it's great to see something, fully modern with an extra dose of personality. And that's what you have here. I think that this thing looks great. Again, I'm also coming at from the eye and the lens of a collector. I don't know if this would be a great recommendation for your first watch or, a one watch type of collection, but I do know if you have like me, quite after owning quite a few different watches, and many of them were, early in the search, you just kind of want everything to be ultra versatile. I've come to really appreciate things that can be a lot more unique and err on that side of personality. So I dig it. So for me, guys, bottom line, I'm pretty selective when it comes to Kickstarter watches, but I'm really glad I took a chance featuring these unique models pre-launch, and I'm really happy to see the production units really delivering on the prototype's initial potential. So Ubiq watches, if I'm saying that wrong, number one, I'm sorry. Number two, I say a lot of brands wrong here. I don't fancify any of it. You guys have a fan. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next. Maybe a field watch, maybe a GMT, a true GMT. That'd be kind of cool as well. When I say true, I'm not saying that travelers versus callers. I'm just saying that, this isn't really a true GMT because it's just it has a regular 3-hand movement, and you're able to tell an extra time zone at a 12-hour scale versus 24 hours. Okay, so don't kill me in the comments, or go ahead. Actually, guys, just let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.